Hi, I'm live. All right. I'm a couple minutes late, but I made it. That's a good thing. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about 5 essential rules of writing powerful dialogue. Dialogue is so important to include in a book. I mean, oh my gosh, it's so important. And I'm going to be talking about, as a book editor, the things that I have noticed are most problematic for my clients, the things that they, the things that they miss as far as dialogue, writing dialogue, making sure that dialogue scenes are crafted beautifully and keep the reader engaged and have great pacing. My phone is going off, so I'm going to put it on silent. Okay, so looks like I have a couple viewers. If you are here, just give me a thumbs up to let me know that you could hear everything, that everything is good, everything is coming through clear on your screen. Okay, and then we will get started. Okay, so today I'm talking about dialogue, like I already said. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because not only is dialogue so important, like I said, but also that I'm in the middle of, here's a story. I'm in the middle of doing a huge edit on a massive book. The client's name is Celia, and she's probably going to be watching this later on the replay. So if you're watching this, Celia, hello, I'm talking about your book. So I'm doing a lot on this book. I just finished doing a massive developmental edit where I cut out like 40,000 words of the book. Yeah. And then now I'm in the line editing process where I'm making sure that everything is going smoothly. And in that process, there is a lot of summarization and things that just, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. So, and it makes for a less engaging book. Excuse me. Wow, I'm a little too excited this morning. So it makes for a less than engaging book. So what I'm doing is I am translating, I'm transforming those scenes where it's just summarizing what's happening into actual dialogue. And what it's doing is, instead of telling the action, it's showing the action. And that's a very important thing that dialogue can do. And I'm going to be talking about that later today. Hold on. Okay, all right. I'm okay. All right, your book editor is not going to die today, I promise. Okay, so that's why I decided to write this blog, is because dialogue is so important, and I wanted to show authors the importance of doing that dialogue. So as we're getting more people coming in, leave me a comment, show me where you're watching from, and of course, if you have any questions at all during this process, during this video, just leave them right there. I have it right there in front of me so I could see if there are any comments or anything. Or I know that a lot of people will watch the replay afterward. Leave a comment on the replay if you have any questions or anything like that, and I'll answer them. I'm so active on Facebook. It's terrible. I'm so bad with Facebook. I'm on it all the time. So anyway, all right, so let's get started, okay? So today, let me open this up. So today we're going to be talking about 3 different things. The blog is called 5 Rules of Writing Dialogue, but I'm going to be talking about the rules, but I'm really going to be talking about 3 important things that kind of talk about the rules. Just a little bit different format for the video. But of course, the blog is available. Actually, let me do the link to the blog. Perfect. Okay. So that is the blog. So go ahead and read that after the video, but stay here and watch me. Watch me. Okay. So we're going to be talking about how much of your book should be comprised of dialogue. okay? We're going to be talking about action tags and dialogue tags, what they are and when to use each one. And then I'm also going to be talking about common verbs that can and cannot be used as dialogue tags. Okay, that's a huge mistake I'm constantly seeing as I'm editing books. Okay, all right, I got my notes right here. Okay, so number one, let's start with number one. How much of your book should be comprised of dialogue tags? The short answer is about 20%. About 20% of your book, no matter what size your book is, should be comprised of dialogue tags or of dialogue. And so in your book, there is a balance of action, narration, and dialogue. And so the most successful books have a really wonderful balance of these. The author will know when to include a dialogue scene. They'll know to include just narration, and they'll know when it's appropriate to have action on the page, okay? So as far as dialogue, that should take up about 20% of your book. Now, this can be anything from just a single line of dialogue, like if a character is by themselves. You don't want it just to be like, the character did this, the character did that, then the character did this. Boring, okay? So you want to incorporate dialogue when possible. So even if the character is alone and there's nobody to talk to, people talk to themselves. People talk to themselves all the time. It could just be something like, oh, I shouldn't forget to do this. Or, wow, I almost tripped over that. I don't know, just include some kind of dialogue. Or internal thoughts is a really great one too. So including dialogue is very important even when the character is alone. But in most cases, those dialogue scenes are going to be conversations between two or more characters. And so that should take up about 20% of your book. And obviously, it probably goes without saying that it shouldn't be 20% of your book altogether, and then 20, and so it needs to be broken up and spread out evenly throughout your book, right? Okay. So here we go. Have you ever read a book where there's an entire chapter and not a word is spoken? It's just, like I said, the character did this, the character did this, the character that did that. It's boring. It's boring. And then by the end of that chapter, it's like your eyes are glazing over and, like you can't really focus, and it's just not engaging. And so that's the importance of including dialogue in your novel, is that dialogue really brings the action to life. And instead of saying something like, Susan told Michael to go to the store, that's summarizing what happened. Instead, use actual quotes and use he said, she said, she asked, anything like that. Just use that, and that will really help bring your story to life and keep your readers engaged. Okay. Okay, so here's a really good example of it. So when I say that dialogue is a good tool to show what's happening on the page instead of telling it, here's an example. This example is actually in my blog, so you could read it later, but I'm going to read it to you now. Okay, so here's telling. I was sitting in church listening to the priest when my mom told me it was time to go. Okay, now here's that same sentiment rewritten to show, and it's using dialogue, okay? I shifted on my seat, the hardwood uncomfortable after I had sat for so long. Ahead of me, the priest said a prayer, the words quiet on his lips. I leaned forward, straining to hear him, when I felt someone touch my shoulder. Sarah, my mother said next to me, it's time to go. See, it's like magic, right? It's magic. Okay, I get really excited about this stuff. Okay, I think that's it. That's it for point number 1. Okay, so moving on. Any questions? Any questions about that point at all? Feel free to leave them. Okay, I'm gonna get a drink of coffee real quick. Okay, so what's the difference between action tags and dialogue tags? So action tags show the reader who's talking as well as what the character is doing, okay? So an example of this is, I need to stop by the bank first, in quotes. Mike opened his wallet, revealing only $2. There you go, that's the action tag. Mike opened his wallet, okay? So now that is, it's an action tag, and so it shows, it's paired with the line of dialogue. It's in the same paragraph, same line, and it shows what the character is doing while also showing who's speaking, okay? And so that really helps cut down on the repetition of, if you were to do only dialogue tags, for example, let's go to the movies, said Mike. Oh, I want to get pizza first, said Stacy. And then it's just said, he said, she said, he said, she said. And so that could get really repetitive and boring for the reader. So obviously you want to switch it up as much as you can. Incorporate action tags whenever you can. Action tags are wonderful. I love action tags so much. Total nerd. Okay, that's fine. Now, one important rule to remember of this is that if you have an action tag, you don't need to do a dialogue tag as well. It's either one or the other. And I have an example of that in the blog. So you're going to have to go to the blog to read it. See what I did there? Okay. All right. And so, yeah, you want to alternate between action tags and dialogue tags. And it switches it up. And it helps to avoid that repetition. Because like I said, if you use dialogue tags every time someone speaks, it just gets repetitive. And especially in a conversation between two characters, there's no need to say Mike said, Stacy said, Mike said, Stacy said, because you know that Mike and Stacy are the only ones in the room, and so they're the only ones talking. Who else is going to respond to Mike? You know, unless there's a character that comes into the room, in which case it should be documented, it should be narrated. See how it's all coming together? Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm going to use an example for this, and let me put this over here. So, The Medusa Coin by Lou Paduano. This is a book that I edited last year? I think it was last year. I think this is book number 3 or book number 4 of his series. But anyway, so he has some really great dialogue scenes in all of his books. But this is just one that I'm using for example, okay? So I'm going to read a little bit from here. Reaching beneath the bar, the man retrieved his own glass of water and held it up. To new beginnings. Cheers! Lauren took a sip, every drop satisfying him. See, that was an action tag right there. Can I get a table set for you? The man asked. See, that was a dialogue tag. You see that? The man asked, looking around for a space. How many are joining you? Lauren hesitated, the satisfaction of the moment fleeting. Blah, 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 blah. Sorry, Lou, if you're watching this. Really great dialogue scene. Incorporating a mix of action tags and dialogue tags, and that really helps to keep the writing fresh and engaging. Okay? All right, so I think that's it. So yes, there you go. That's from that book. All right. So the last thing I'm going to be talking about today is common verbs that can and cannot be used as dialogue tags, okay? So some verbs that you cannot use: smiled, laughed, smirked, frowned, pointed. You like that? So these are actions. These are not speaking verbs. Speaking verbs that you can use, on the other hand, are things like said, asked, replied. And so before I get ahead of myself, let me stop. So the difference between verbs that cannot be used as dialogue tags is that the ones that cannot be used as dialogue tags are ones that denote an action, okay? So you wouldn't say, hello, she smiled, with the comma to indicate the dialogue tag, okay? You would do hello, period, end quote, and then she smiled with a capital S, because that's its own sentence. That's its own action, okay? So now the verbs that you can use for dialogue tags are the ones that indicate that someone is speaking. Like I said, she said, he asked, she replied, things like that, okay? So you can use different verbs like yelled or whispered or screamed or anything like that. But as a rule of thumb, keep those instances of using those dialogue tags to a minimum, okay? Whenever possible, keep with the more simpler, the simple dialogue tags, like he said, she replied, he asked, things like that. And the reason for that is because if you use too many loud verbs that are, whispered or yelled or screamed, like, to use examples that I was saying earlier, if you were to use too many of those, a funny thing happens. Readers will start to get distracted by the verb choice. So instead of actually paying attention to the story and paying attention to the conversation, they're more focused on, oh, she whispered that. Oh, wow, he yelled that. And it sounds silly, but it's real, it's serious. That is something that you should avoid doing too much of, okay? So whenever possible, mostly stick with the basic dialogue tags: said, replied, asked, stuff like that. Okay? Okay, we're good. Okay, so I think that's it. We talked about how much of your book should be comprised of dialogue, okay? Action tags and dialogue tags, what they are and when to use each of them, and common verbs that can and cannot be used as dialogue tags, and how often to use those verbs as well, okay? So I posted the link in the comments. If you have any questions, feel free to comment or message me directly, okay? As you can tell, I am so excited about dialogue tags. It's unhealthy, but it's something that I love talking about, obviously. And so if you have any questions, or if you want to work through any examples, even on your own book, message me and I will help you out. Absolutely. I'm a book editor. That's what I do. All right. Okay. So please like this video. Please share this video if you found it helpful, because that's how I reach other people. That's how I teach other people. And I mean, to tell you the truth, the more that authors know how to write books, how to write good books, the easier my job is. So, I mean, come on, help a sister out, right? I mean, so seriously though, if you know any author friends, tag them in this video, and then I can, talk to them, and yeah. So yeah, I believe that's it. Next week, one thing I forgot to mention, Lou's book. Okay, so this author, Lou Paduano, I mentioned that this is part of a series. I'm working on book 5 of his series right now. And for the next 3 weeks, I'm doing blog posts on why authors should write a book series, okay? And how it will make you a more successful author, all right? So it's gonna be a really, really good a mini series, and I'm super excited about that. I actually interviewed Lou, the author. I interviewed him and I asked him all about what the differences are between when he just published one book, and now that he's published 4 books, he's going to publish the 5th in September, I believe. And just the difference, the difference that he's seen between publishing 1 book and having published 5 by the end of this year. So that is, there's a lot of really good information in there. So you will not want to miss that. And I'm not just saying that. It's actually really good. So, okay, all right, well, thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day, and bye.